So for the next presentation, I'd like to introduce Stefan Funke, who will be presenting tips for IP transit customers. Stefan leads Inter.link's technical operations. He and his teams are responsible for operating and expanding Inter.link's global network. Welcome to the stage, Stefan. And here is the clicker.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, as said, my name is Stefan Funke. I'm the head of infrastructure, head of technical operations, or as most of you, I'm just a network engineer. And I work for Inter.link. We are a supplier of carrier services. We are carbon neutral since last year. We will be net zero beginning next year. We do IP transit, IP access, layer 2 VPNs, and DDoS protection, but this talk in specific is about IP transit. And to make it even more specific, this talk is about what can IP transit customers do to protect their service, or to look at from the other side, fun with AS sets and what we discovered and the fun we had automating all the things around AS sets. So for a little recap, or this is the agenda for today, we will take a look on how does the internet work and what should you or what are you actually doing as a customer of IP transit services. We will take a look into data sources of AS sets and which sources to use for prefix filtering. We will take a look into authoritative sources, what data within the sources you can use or you should use. Take a look into trusted sources and how to choose the right one, which is actually not that easy. And we will take a look into standard formats and all the variations of formats we found. So prefix filters, fun for every knock and lots of talks. And once again, prefix filters. So you want to do internet things. You want to be an internet provider. So what do? Usually, you go to your local or regional internet registry and ask for an ASN number. And if you're lucky, you follow all the rules, you meet all the requirements, your local or regional internet registry assigns you an AS number. And they will add a note to the database that says, okay, this ASN number is now assigned. Next, you need IP addresses. To do things in the internet, you probably need IP addresses because without IP addresses, the internet is not so much fun. So again, you go to your local or regional internet registry and ask them for IP addresses. And they will tell you, no, sorry, we don't have IP addresses, but we have something called IPv6, which is the future, and the future is good. And if you believe this is the future, for us, this is usually the present, but okay, will be also the future. So they give you a block of IP addresses, they will add it to their database, and they will make a note. This prefix or those IP addresses now belong to this AS number, which you just registered. Fine. Next step. Add your AS number to an AS set, and this is now the first step that lots of customers actually don't do, surprisingly. I don't know why this is. In the past, I volunteered for PeeringDB. I know that we had a lot of registering partners with registering peers with PeeringDB who never heard about AS sets. So what is an AS set? Typically, it's a definition of data that defines a name for your AS, and you add your AS number to this AS set. And if you haven't done this, please do this. And if you combine all this, we get this wonderful tree. So now we have an AS set, which includes your AS number, which includes your prefix, and now we can query all the details of this tree from any size and get data out of it, and we can work actually with this data. Fine, now you have all this, you can now buy IP transit from your beloved upstream provider, which might be Inter.link or someone else. And what we then do is, we add your AS set to our AS set. And then we get the tree again, which is now, in this example, my AS set, which includes my customer's AS set, which includes the SN number of my customer, which includes the prefix of my customer. That's beautiful. And then I can use tools like BGP Q4 to probably get the customer prefixes and then filter on route advertisements. So if I can query this AS set, I get all your prefixes, and then I can tell my automation to work only on these prefixes. So if you announce something else, I will probably block it. And if you announce nothing, or if I block everything because you didn't add your AS set to my session, then you will probably not get any traffic. So to recap, customer orders IP transit, we add their AS set to our AS set, our AS cone on prefix cone grows, which then attracts more customers who order more IP transit, and then and so on, and so on, and so on. As I said, this creates more gravity, more customers coming in, and yeah, I can use now IRR tree to get an idea of the total number of prefixes in an AS set. So in this example, we are querying IRR tree -4, -6, and our AS set. And then we get as a result, we currently carry about this number of ASNs and this number of prefixes. Easy, my job is done here. Now I can collect the money, I can give access to the customer, and everything should be fine. In reality, it's not that easy because apparently there are more than one data sources. So I said, use BGP Q4 to probably get the customer prefixes. I said, use IRR tree to get an idea of the number of prefixes. And why I'm using the words probably and idea. Problem statement, where should I, as your transit provider, get this information from? So some of you might now say, it's easy, just talk to your customer and ask your customer, what's your AS set? In reality, the person buying IP transit services is usually not a technical person. So if I ask them what's your AS set, they probably don't have an answer. In the best case, they know the AS number because that's marketing, but AS sets, usually we don't get an answer for that. So what most of the providers do, what we do, what our automation is doing is we ask PeeringDB. So we need to get the AS set data from PeeringDB. Well, yes, probably, and we do get an answer. The problem is, if we ask PeeringDB for the data, we get lots of interesting results because in reality there are lots of sources for those IRRDBs. There are the 5 regional internet registries operating IRRDBs, plus the local delegations. For example, APNIC has lots of delegations, and LACNIC has lots of delegations. And then there are many, 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 many more databases. And some are known, some are unknown. For some of those databases, we know who operates them. Some of those databases are they just exist. But there's a solution for this. I know there are many data sources out there. I can fix this. We just run our local IRD server. We mirror then all those DBs I just showed you locally. Then we query our local IRD server, and then we get the customer data from all the DBs in one place. And now my work is done. I have all the information I need to filter on your asset. Probably. If we do this, we get exciting or sometimes funny results. For example, if we query for AS-Apple, we get actually 2 results. One is from the RIPE database, and one is from our ADB. Which one should we use now? Is this based on luck? Do we throw dice? Do we always use the first one? Let's take a look. So if you actually look into those 2 results, the first result for AS-Apple from the RIPE database contains actually 2 ASNs, but 0 prefixes, which is kind of okay because RIPE doesn't have any information about those two ASNs. If we query RADB for AS-Apple, we get also the same two ASNs and all the prefixes we need. So in this case, probably ARDB should be the right place to look things up. And then other things happening in the world. AS set escorting, for example. So recently or non-recently, I don't even remember, this happened. Someone registered AS-Amazon at RIPE. So they registered an AS set called AS-Amazon at RIPE. And if your automation or your people, your local people, work on RIPE databases, they probably got this as the first result now. The funny thing is, the result in RIPE was empty, and the entry in RIPE was created by someone who is probably not even affiliated with Amazon. So again, in this case, RIPE would not be the best source for those queries. RADB would be the right one. So this is a problem, but there are more. And now we actually, if we look at this, we currently have two versions of AS sets. We have just AS set as, for example, AS-Apple, and now we have something like database source : AS set. Two versions, okay. The : version seems to be currently the dominant notation to specify a certain database. So for example, RIPE : AS example is more used than AS example at RIPE at the moment, or in your case, it might be Aaron. If we query PeeringDB, we see that over 2,000 networks registered their ASN with the : version and about 20 with the @ version, which means there are more than one type of entries in the database. And of course, we can fix this. So as a tip for you as an IP transit customer or someone peering with other networks, someone who has a presence at internet exchanges, please go to your PeeringDB page and add an IRRDB source to your PeeringDB entry. And if you've done that, now my job is clearly done. Probably because we just learned there are more than one authoritative sources out there. And there's even AS quoting within the same internet registry database. For example, if you look up Inter.link, which is my ASN set, you will get actually two results from RIPE. One is Inter.link, and one is AS545 : Inter.link. Which one is the right one? Well, it turns out some RIRs are enforcing hierarchical, this is a hard word for a non-native speaker, AS set names in IRDBs. So APNIC, LACNIC, and RIPE enforce this now. AFRINIC and ARIN don't. And there are some interesting discussions out there at the current time how to make this a typical standard, but currently there's none. So now we have three types of datasets in PeeringDB. We have just an AS set, we have database name : AS set, and we have the hierarchical version with the database name, the AS number, and the AS set. Lots of fun to automate on. But this is fixable. Please, as a tip for you as an IP transit customer, create an hierarchical AS set and update PeeringDB with it. And after you've done that, you make my life and the life of your upstream provider, of your peer, of the internet exchange point much more easier. And then my job is clearly done again. Well, let's have a look at trusted sources. If you look at PeeringDB and you query PeeringDB about the data sources that are currently used by all those people who registered with PeeringDB, you will see that there are about 500 or more than 500 networks who do not use IRRs of your regional internet registry. So those are a lot of sources, and we need to query all those sources. this is really not feasible. So please, if you want to help your upstream provider, if you want to help your peers, please, please move your asset into one of the RIR-maintained IRRDBs. And I know there's some cases where this is not feasible, but for most of the customers, for most of you in the room, this should be the right way to do. And then there are formats, and believe me, there are lots of formats, because if you take a look at PeeringDB, you will find lots of entries where one network has multiple AS sets on their page. And people tend to do funny things with those fields in PeeringDB because PeeringDB doesn't enforce you to use a standard format. So what do those networks do? Some use a comma to separate AS sets. Some use some kind of white space. Then there are some AS sets which do interesting things. For example, we do see something like -v6, which probably means there are some prefixes which are v6 only, I guess. Then there is something like just a 6 at the end, or two completely different AS sets for one network, whatever that is. Different AS sets for customer and probably non-customers, who knows? Then there are route sets and AS sets. We see IXP route servers having an AS set per LAN or per region or whatever that is. Then we see something like the same AS set with and without a database source. So that's now a do whatever you want. I have really no idea what those people are doing. And my tip here is, please, if you can, please go to PeeringDB and consolidate your PeeringDB records to one single AS set. This makes the life of everyone easier, and PeeringDB is there to help your upstream providers, to help your peers. So I know if you have a reason to have multiple AS sets, this is fine, but in PeeringDB, you should have the one AS set people need to peer with you. And then there's more, but this is something for a different talk. So as a recap, as a review, what can you do to help your internet provider? What can you do to help your upstreams? And what can you do to actually secure your network by helping others filter for your prefixes? Please create a hierarchical AS set in the form of AS number, AS name, AS set name. Then please add a source to your AS set in PeeringDB, something like ripe, or Aaron, APNATE, whatever your AS set lives in. Please move your AS set into one of the regional internet registry maintained IRRDBs, and please consolidate your PeeringDB records into one single AS set. And please, if you can, use a upstream provider who actually honors those values. Because if your provider doesn't filter on your AS set and is not using other tools, this might be not the best choice for you. And at the end, I seem a bit fast. Are there any questions?
Hi, John Brown with Team Cumry. Great presentation. Thank you for the data points and encouraging the community to move the needle forward. Question, dust bunnies. We have lots of IIRs that are out there that have legacy entries in them that are just completely bumpkiss, that cause problems, that take a lot of time to get deleted, updated, removed, and I've got personal experience with certain IIRs that won't remove unless you really sort of beat them up substantially in email.
Yeah.
That's disappointing.
It is.
How do you, you're advocating that we should move and put things into RIR registries. That seems to make a lot of sense. It's a feature and function that the community that service could be provided. what about also making sure that those entities go and delete, remove after they've done that move from somewhere else? I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to name and shame, but they should clean up the junk that's left behind. And what do we need to do as a community to clean up the junk that's still out there? How do we address that? I think there's probably two questions there.
That's a good question. So I guess you mean in the RRs, not in the others?
Cleaning up in the other IIRs that somebody is moving
Okay.
away from that's not an RIR. There's too many R's here, but I'll get my R pronunciation right. Too many. When we move to an RIR, as you're
Yes.
advocating, we should be cleaning up what's in the losing IIR's data set, and we should just also be generally cleaning up what's in other IRR data sets
Yes.
that are dust bunnies.
I totally agree with you. I have no idea how to do this, actually, because as you said, some of those vendors of IRR services who are not RIRs actually do not even respond, or they ask you for money to do things for you, and they do not authenticate whatever you do. So it's not an easy question. Probably the easiest solution would be don't use them. Don't use them for filtering. I know that's not working for now, but yeah, I don't have an answer.
Please.
If we stop using them, that's great, but then do we get to a situation where people still reference them in their scripts and it's causing more and more harm?
Yes.
And now we've got to figure out how to convince the community to remove them from their scripts and educate, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think we need a standard, and I know there are lively and lovely discussions at the moment how to establish those standards. So if you can talk to your local internet registry or your regional internet registry and get involved in those discussions.
Jeff has Juniper. So as you say, there's so many lovely standards. Let's talk about maybe one more. There's, on top of your very lovely work, thank you for doing this, people should filter. It makes the internet nicer. Inside of IETF in the Secure Interdomain Routing Operations Group, CyberOps, there is work again from a lot of our friends here that do NADOG and also do IETF work on a piece that's called signed prefix lists that overlap the AS set type behavior. Not one for one equal, but strong overlap. So yes, you could get this stuff into RPKI, which you're all developing opinions about how this stuff actually impacts things like origin filtering. If you find that the operational model for RPKI is more friendly towards keeping things clean, maybe take a look at that work in CyberOps, offer some comments.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. Yeah, this talk was about AS sets. I know there's usually lots of talk about RPKI. Yeah, I didn't see this many this time. So, but this is actually a set of talks. So the next one will be probably about RPKI.
Hi, I have a comment from online. This is from Matthew Pitark. He says, unfortunately, there are IRRs that don't allow address entries for networks that have not signed agreements with them. So I think we're stuck with those third-party IRRs for a while.
Well, if you haven't, I'm not sure what this is about, because if you have an AS number, you usually have signed something with an RIR. Okay, so yeah, there's legacy. Okay. Well, thanks for the input. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
So a while ago, having been somebody that got numeric resources before Aaron existed, and I've got the email and pieces of paper still to back those resources up, I would say that at this day and age, if you have pre-Aaron or other RIR allocations, and you wish to continue to get current services like RPKI, right? Then you should figure out how to move past the concept of working with the RIR and getting into the mix, as it were. I will have to say that John Sweeting last year did a presentation and a talk at Wispapalooza about this. And yeah, my opinion, being one of those folks that was like, hey, I got a piece of email from Kim Hubbard that says I got these prefixes, and it never said anything about me having to deal with Aaron, right? Yeah, no, now no, I think this makes sense. Aaron absorbed a certain set of obligations when it took over from Inter.link, but then there are new services being added post that date. And if you want those services, you should be part of the new club, as it were. I think that is an equitable and fair process for folks to hold. And I would be willing to bet you that there is every RIR on this planet, all 5 of them, would be perfectly happy to work with legacy holders and figure out how to address their concerns and bring them into the fold so that they can, in fact, make use of that RIR resource.
Yes.
I also would say is that the RIRs might want to look at enabling folks to use them, because that brings better stability and better security operations and trust to the internet, which I think they're tasked directly or indirectly to do. Anyway, that was a comment without a logo on my shirt.
I totally agree. Yes. So if you're one of those legacy holders, Aaron is outside. I'm sure they would love to talk to you.
Okay, Sean from ByteDance. So I think one thing I'm interested in is so basically ASZ can contain other ASZ.
Yes.
So there can be loops and there can be format issues. Have you ever seen any problems related to this kind of thing?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Many. So from our internal systems, usually those scripts run at least 1 or 2 times a day. And I would say we see alerts for generating all those lists and parsing all those lists, usually every second day or something. Because there are humans, and whenever there are humans involved, something will break. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I wonder if it's possible to construct ASZ that generates infinite results or something.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes, you can.
Hello, Kevin McCormick from MTC Communications. IRR Explorer is a great tool to check your prefixes to see if there's any legacy databases that are out there with entries. And I've actually used that for our company to find those and then contact those legacy database owners to remove those entries, and they clean them up for us.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, Stefan, thank you for the presentation and the great discussion, and we appreciate your contribution.